In 1992, Dark Horse Comics released a three-part adaptation of Alien 3, originally published shortly after the theatrical release of the film. Common for such adaptations, early versions of the script were used to bring the story to the page. Considering that during production the script was still being worked on and numerous cuts were made to the film, significant plot points and scenes were changed or omitted from the final release. The comic adaptation, written by Stephen Grant with art by Christopher Taylor and Rick Magyar, made a strong case for Alien fans at the time that some other version of Alien 3 must exist somewhere. And ultimately this version, comprised of a significant amount of cut footage, labeled the Assembly Cut, was released for home video in 2003. This cut was over 30 minutes longer than the theatrically released version, and was presented as the best possible effort to capture director David Fincher's original vision of the film, though Fincher was not involved in any way whatsoever with the assembly cut, and claims that a proper director's cut would never be possible. The comic book adaptation features elements from both the theatrical and assembly cut versions of Alien 3, along with its own moments that were never seen in either version, making this incarnation of Alien 3 a unique beast in of itself. Given that it works on early concepts, there are big changes in the story, but also in its designs. Not all characters match their film counterparts perfectly. In some cases, they're a different race. In other cases, a key character such as Golic has a design that hints the filmmakers were planning to present the character in a much different way than what we got. He's shorter and stockier in this version. And the design of the alien itself is quite different than the alien we see in the finished film. It less resembles the film version and actually best matches, of all things, to the Sega Genesis version of the xenomorph from the video game also adapted from the film. In the assembly cut, the alien's host is an ox, while in the theatrical cut, it's born from a dog. This version follows the dog, named Sparky here, as the host. Though in the comic version here, there doesn't seem to be any kind of specific efforts to depict the alien running around on all fours, suggesting it borrowed traits from its host animal. Here it is a big, bloodthirsty beast nevertheless. This remains a fascinating piece of media, a version of the story that, along with the novelization, first clued us in to what was missing from Alien 3, and a different vision that was not fully realized. For this video, I'd like to take a closer look at Dark Horse's adaptation, see how closely it follows both the theatrical and assembly cut versions of the film, and see what it does differently from either. The story begins with the EEV being ejected from the Sulaco. While the film version intercuts images of a loose facehugger and a fire that causes the emergency procedure, none of this is depicted in the comic. The revelation of the fire is saved for later in the story when Ripley speaks to Bishop, and the EEV makes its drop into Fiorina Fury 161, described here as an Outer Vale mineral ore refinery, maximum security work correctional facility. The date, July 3rd, 0600 hours. As in both versions of the film, we see the EEV crash into the water, but here is where one of the standout differences takes place. We get a look inside the vehicle, with Newt drowning in her cryotube. The alien queen embryo emerges from her mouth, as if the not yet fully gestated creature sensed it no longer had a viable host, and makes its way into the water to find a new one. The alien finds Ripley, and crawls into her throat, which is where the bitch stays until the finale of the story, assumingly because it's not fully formed and needs more time inside of a human to properly develop. This could possibly suggest that Newt was carrying an embryo inside of her as early as the events of Aliens, but seeing as how there will be another alien inside of the dog later on, the comic doesn't make any answers for the mystery of the stowaway egg. And likely this was the work of a facehugger that could implant two embryos, the queen and a guard drone to protect it, though this facehugger is not depicted in the comic. And the royal facehugger with such abilities can only be seen in a quick moment in the assembly cut version of the film. In the theatrical version of Alien 3, it's left ambiguous as to who found Ripley separated from the others, but in the assembly cut and the comic, it's Clemens who finds Ripley and carries her into the facility, searching for help. Also seen here is a moment where Clemens believes Ripley is about to speak, but instead she heaves up the filthy beach water and goes unconscious. In line with the theatrical version of the film, prisoners rush to the EV along with the dog, and as they enter the wreckage, they witness the destruction inside. In a moment exclusive to this comic book adaptation, one of the prisoners places a hand over Newt's cryotube, as he sees what poor fate has come upon her. She's so young. The prisoners of Fury 161 congregate in the assembly hall, where Aaron gives the attention over to Dylan for their opening prayer. Give us strength, O Lord, to endure. We recognize that we are sinners in the hands of an angry God. Let the circle be unbroken until the day. Amen. Andrews addresses the prisoners from there, informing them of the new circumstances. This is Rumor Control. The facts. A Model 337 EEV crashed here at 0600 on the morning watch. 1 survivor, 2 dead, and a hopelessly smashed droid. The survivor is a woman. Questions? Morse makes his objections known. We all took a vow of celibacy, and that includes women. I don't appreciate company policy allowing her to freely intermingle. We're aware of your feelings. I've requested a rescue team. Hopefully they'll evac her inside of a week. Mr. Clemens, what's her medical status? Doesn't seem too badly damaged. Unconscious. Difficult at the moment to make a specific diagnosis. Will she live? Yes, I should think so. It's in everyone's best interests if the woman doesn't come out of the infirmary till the rescue team arrives. So we should all stick to our set routines and not get unduly agitated, correct? All right. Thank you, gentlemen. This scene plays out nearly identically to how it plays out in the film, though one notable exception is Dylan's opening prayer, which appears in the assembly cut version, but it is omitted from the theatrical cut. Clemens goes to the infirmary to check up on Ripley, who has woken up before he approaches her with a needle. Tears are streaming down her face. What's that? Oh, a light cocktail of my own mix, sort of an eye-opener. Are you a doctor? Only a 3C rating, but I'm the best you'll find around here. I should really shave your head. Lice. Big problem, I'm afraid. Your private parts can wait till you can handle a razor yourself. I'm Clemens, by the way, the medical officer here. He proceeds with the injection. Where's here? Fury 161, a WEYLAND-YUTANI backwater work prison. You crashed in an EEV, evidently separated from your mothership before you hit our atmosphere. I've no idea how long you were in hyperspace. Coming down the way you did can be a jolt to your system. And I'd be sick for 2 weeks if I decompressed too fast, right? Yes, quite nauseous. What about the others? I'm afraid they didn't make it. What? Ripley begins to stand up, and she tears up further at the revelation. She is visibly shocked. They didn't survive. I have to get to the ship. You're in no condition for that. Not unaware of the fact that she's completely nude, Ripley asks facetiously, You want to get me some clothes, or should I go like this? Clemens replies, Given the nature of our indigenous population, I would suggest clothes. None of them have seen a woman in years. Neither have I, for that matter. Clemens escorts Ripley to the EEV wreckage, filling her in on some of Fury's history along the way. There used to be 1,000 convicts here. It's 25-man custodial staff now. They keep the place on pilot light. Pilot light for what? Toxic dump. Prisoners used to make lead sheets to seal off the shafts. Any women here? This is a double Y chromosome facility, Lieutenant Ripley. Strictly male. How come you know my name? It's stenciled on your shorts. We also found your dog tags. Great. Where are the bodies? Our morgue, until the investigative team arrives, probably a week. There was an android. Disconnected. It was all over the place. What's left was thrown in the trash. A support beam impaled the corporal. What about the girl? Drowned in her cryotube. I don't think she was conscious when it happened. I'm sorry. Ripley stops in her tracks as she notices the burn on Newt's cryotube. Where is she? I told you, the morgue. I want to see what's left of her body. What do you mean, what's left? The body's intact. I want to see it. I have to make sure how she died. Clemens brings Ripley to the morgue to see Newt's body, and he asks if she's Ripley's daughter. Ripley says that she's not. This exchange was never in the theatrical version of the film, but it is restored in the assembly cut. Ripley insists on doing an autopsy, cutting the little girl open to make sure how she died. She attempts a story, a possible cholera outbreak, which Clemens sees right through, noting a case of cholera hasn't been reported in 200 years. In the film version, Ripley makes a final plea by simply and quietly asking, "Please." Here, she stares at Clemens with a tear-streaked face, no words, but obviously important to her. "As you wish," he says, and moves forward with the autopsy. Newt's autopsy is one of Alien 3's most controversial scenes. David Fincher had originally intended it to be much gorier and disturbing and longer than what we see in the finished film. The explicit footage was met with disgust and was one of the most adamant cuts made to the film. No extended autopsy scene exists in the assembly cut, nor does it make its way into the comic book adaptation here. In fact, the comic entirely bypasses the autopsy, jumping straight ahead to Clemens' findings. Nothing unusual, no sign of contagion. Lungs filled with fluid. Ergo, she drowned. Satisfied? Since I'm not entirely stupid, want to tell me what you're really looking for? Superintendent Andrews puts a quick stop to any further assessment, kicking the door open and entering in a rage with Aaron at his side. "What's going on, Mr. Clemens?" "Superintendent, I don't believe you've met Lieutenant Ripley." Aaron addresses Clemens. "The superintendent asked you a question. First, Lieutenant Ripley is much better. Second, in the interest of public health, I'm conducting an autopsy. Without my authority, there didn't seem to be time, but the body showed no sign of disease. Good, but it might be helpful if Lieutenant Ripley didn't parade in front of the prisoners. Also, keep me informed of changes in her physical status, or would that be asking too much?" Ripley interjects. "We have to cremate the bodies." "Nonsense. They'll be kept on ice until the rescue team arrives." Aaron is amused by Ripley's request. "Cremate. That's a good one, sir." "There's the public health issue," Clemens notes. "Mr. Clemens, I thought you said there was no sign of disease. Without proper lab tests, it's impossible to be certain. I think it would be unwise to tolerate even the possibility of an unwanted virus. An outbreak of cholera would look very bad on your report, wouldn't it?" Not replying directly to Clemens at this comment, Andrews turns to Ripley. "We have 25 prisoners in this facility, all double Y chromos. Thieves, rapists, murderers, forgers, child molesters, scum. Scum that have taken on religion, which doesn't make them less dangerous. So I try not to offend their convictions. I don't want to disturb the order. And I don't want a woman walking around, giving them ideas. Yes, obviously for my personal safety." "Exactly. I leave the details of the cremation to you, Mr. Clemens." In a scene following the theatrical version, Murphy goes to see the dog and notices the marks on his face, the evidence of a facehugger having assaulted the poor animal and implanting it with a xenomorph embryo. As Murphy leaves, Sparky spits out some kind of bile or slime, evidencing his infection, and begins to howl as the birth of the new xenomorph looms closer. As with the theatrical film, the CHESTBURSTERS' appearance is intercut with the funeral of Hicks and Newt. Andrews begins to deliver his eulogy. "We commit this child and this man to your keeping, O Lord. Their bodies have been taken from the shadows of our nights. They have been released from all darkness and pain. The child and the man have gone beyond our world. They are forever eternal and everlasting." It is then that Dylan continues the eulogy, offering his own words for the bereft. "We who suffer ask the question, why? Why are the innocent punished? Why the sacrifice? Why the pain? There are no promises, there is no certainty, only that some will be called, only that some will be saved. But that small part will never know the hardships, in the grief and pain which lie ahead for those of us who remain. So we commit her body to the void with a glad heart, for within each seed there is a promise of a flower, and within each death, no matter how small, there is always a new life, a new beginning." As the funeral closes, Ripley reaches into her hair and pulls out a handful of lice. This detail is not seen in either version of the film. The infection of lice prompts Ripley to finally shave her head, which is also depicted here in the comic, but not in the film. In the film version, her new haircut is simply revealed in the next scene. Dylan approaches Boggs and Rains in the mess hall, who are none too pleased to be stuck working with Golic. This is a moment that was cut from the theatrical version and only appears in the assembly cut of the film. A lot of talk going around, we got disharmony here. You guys want to tell me what the problem is? No answer. Speak to me, brothers. All right, says Rains. I'll tell you. I don't mind the bugs, the dark, or anything, except Golic. Boggs, that the way you feel about it? Yeah, the man's crazy. He smells. I ain't going out with him anymore. Golic, anything to say for yourself? No? Then listen, all of you. He's going with you. Golic is just another poor, miserable, suffering son of a bitch like you and me. Except he smells worse. And he's crazy. You are to do this to prove your loyalty to me. I don't want to hear another word about Golic. Dylan stops when Ripley is seen entering the mess hall, which is where the theatrical version picks up on this scene. She approaches Dylan, thanking him for his words at the funeral. You shouldn't be here. You don't want to know me. I'm a murderer and rapist of women. Really? I guess I must make you nervous. Do you have faith, sister? Not a lot. We got lots of faith here, even enough for you. Thought women weren't allowed. Never had any before, but we tolerate anyone, even the intolerable. Thanks loads. Just a statement of principle, nothing personal. We got a good place to wait, no temptation. God will return and raise his servants to redemption. The next scene intercuts with Clemens speaking with Ripley, explaining the apocalyptic fundamentalist beliefs of the staff, and further dialogue outlining their attraction to each other, with Murphy's fate in the vents. The alien is waiting in the darkness as Murphy sings to himself while mopping. Here he's actually singing Paint It Black by the Rolling Stones, instead of In the Year 2525 as he does in the film. He comes across the sheddings of the rapidly growing monster's skin, believing it to be from one big damn snake. It's then that the xenomorph spits out acid, burning his face and causing him to fall backward into the fan. Cut to Ripley, awakening from her nightmare, finding herself in Clemens' quarters after their sexual tryst. He is still awake, making himself a drink. Sorry I can't offer you a drink, but you are on medication. I really have to ask you some questions. It's over. I had a bad dream. I just had to be sure what killed her. I made a mistake. So, why is there a barcode printed on the back of your head? Clemens gives no answer, as Aaron calls on the comm ordering the doctor to report to the vent shaft. He goes to investigate along with Andrews and Aaron, while Ripley, meanwhile, retrieves the flight recorder from the EEV in search of further answers. Clemens finds her and makes his objections. You know, wandering around unescorted is really going to piss Andrews off. Screw him. What about the accident? Very bad. One of the prisoners backed into a 6-foot fan. I found something at the accident site. A mark, a burn, much like the one you found on the girl's cryotube. I'm on your side. I want to help, but I need to know what's going on, or what you think is going on. I'm going to find out what happened, why we came down. If you really want to help, find me a computer that can access this flight recorder. Nothing like that here, I'm afraid. Where's Bishop, the droid that crashed with me? I'll point you in the right direction, but I'm afraid I can't join you. I have an appointment. Deep within the unexplored vastness of the complex, Boggs, Rains, and Golic are on their foraging assignment, debating the appropriateness of bad language. Rains goes off on his own to relight the candles, believed to be extinguished by the wind coming from the vent shafts. Out of the dark, the alien emerges, now fully grown, towering over Rains before he can react. The beast tears him apart, as his screams are heard by Golic and Boggs. They panic, running in a circle, and finally discover the corpse of Rains, bloodied nearly beyond recognition. Boggs expresses his shock and confusion. What the hell could have... Before finishing the thought, the alien leaps down from the ceiling at Boggs, ripping at him in the same fashion as Rains and knocking Golic back with his tail. Golic stares mumbling at the creature after its next victim has been killed, and he runs away, screaming in terror, later to be found and suspected of his fellow prisoners' murders. Meanwhile, Ripley has traveled to the garbage dump to search for Bishop, calling out to the android in the hopes of getting a reply. Over the mountain of rusted engines, pneumatic drills, and other equipment, she spots the hand sticking out of a pile of wiring. Bishop. As she retrieves the damaged android, a figure appears behind her, the prisoner, Junior, leading others, grabbing at her with obvious intent. There is a struggle, and Ripley breaks free, making her way down the mountain of junk, only to be stopped again, now being pressed against the pipe rail. As the situation is looking dire, Dylan suddenly materializes from the dark. "Knock it off." Junior looks back and replies, "Jump in the saddle, man. You want to go first?" "I said knock it off." Dylan punches him in the gut and strikes him across the head with a metal bar. He turns to Ripley. "You okay?" "Yeah. Nothing hurt but my feelings." "Good. Take off. The brothers and me are going to discuss some matters of the spirit." At this time, Clemens is in Andrew's office, in a scene that exists in the theatrical cut but was edited down to be slightly more ambiguous. What begins as a fairly polite offer for tea quickly turns into threats on Andrew's part. "Listen to me, you piece of shit. Screw with me again and I'll cut you in half." "I'm not sure I understand." At 0700 hours, the network sent word, the first high-level communication we've ever received. They want this woman looked after. They made it clear. She's a very high priority. Why did you let her out of the infirmary? Then we have this accident. It's what happens when one of these dumb bastards walks around with a hard-on. I'm a doctor, not a jailer. We both know exactly what you are. Perhaps you'd like me to explain your sordid past to Lieutenant Ripley, for her personal edification, of course. Sit the hell down. If I didn't need a medical officer, I wouldn't let you within light years of this operation. I'm very grateful. Keep your sarcasms to yourself. Is there anything I should know?" "About what?" "The woman. Has she said anything to you about her mission? Where's she from? What was she doing in an EEV?" "She told me she was part of a combat team that came to grief. I assume beyond that it's all classified. I haven't pressed her for more." "Get out of here. I will not allow the animals to become agitated. Not by a woman, not by accidents, not by you. Your loyalties are to this operation and the company, not to strangers. When she's gone, we'll still be here. I don't want trouble with our employers. I don't want trouble with anyone. So you keep an eye on the lieutenant, right?" "Right. Good night, Superintendent." In the theatrical version of the film, this scene ends with Andrews asking if there's anything he should know. It's left to the viewer to decide if Clemens divulged any information and what that information may be. In the assembly cut and in the comic, we find he hasn't learned too much information other than her being part of a combat team that came to grief, but the pressure to report any findings to Andrews becomes a lot more apparent. Now having access to Bishop, Ripley takes the remains of her android companion and is able to turn him back online. "Hello, Bishop. Can you feel anything?" "My legs hurt. How are you? I like your new haircut. Can you access the data on the flight recorder?" "No problem. I'm in." "What happened on the Sulaco? Why were the cryotubes ejected?" Bishop replays the warning message notifying of a fire in the cryogenic compartment. "Fire? What started it? Bishop? Did sensors detect any moving life form on the ship prior to separation? Was there an alien on board?" "Yes." "Is it still on the Sulaco? Or—" "It was with us all the way down, in the little girl. She never had a chance." "Oh God. Does the company know?" "They know everything. It all goes into the computer and gets sent back to the network." Do they want it? The alien?" "I don't know. I'm not feeling very well." "I can save your program. If I get out of here, they can wire you up again. No. Just disconnect. I'm tired. Do it for me, Ripley. Ripley disconnects Bishop, essentially killing him. While in the film versions this is a silent act, the comic adds a little dialogue, allowing Ripley to say goodbye before Bishop is gone. As Ripley leaves the remains of the android, Dylan, Aaron, and Clemens enter the infirmary with Golic, who is raving mad about the dragon. Ripley, now knowing the truth about the alien threat, speaks to Andrews, telling him Golic may be right. He dismisses this, confident that Golic perpetrated the slaughter, and arranges a later meeting to discuss the situation. So, you're saying an 8-foot cockroach with acid blood came in on your spaceship? Kills on sight, generally unpleasant? You expect me to accept all of this on your word? Tell me, Lieutenant, what you suggest we do. What kind of weapons have you got? This is a prison. It's not a good idea to allow prisoners access to firearms. No weapons. Great. We're screwed. No, you're screwed. Confined to the infirmary, quarantined. I think you'll be safe from any large, nasty beasts while you're there. Right? Aaron takes hold of her and escorts her back to the infirmary, where she asks Clemens of the possibility of rescue. Isn't there any way off here? Some damn way to escape? Supply ship once every 6 months. They're sending someone to pick you up and investigate. Quite soon, I gather. What's soon? I don't know. No one's ever been in a hurry to get here before. What did you and Andrews discuss? You'd just think I was crazy. That's a bit uncharitable. How are you feeling? Sick to my stomach. Pissed off. Shock. Not unexpected under the circumstances. I'd best give you another cocktail. Golic, confined to straitjacket, mumbles to himself. It's not like I'm perfect or something, but sweet William, I don't see where some people come off always blaming others for life's little problems. That's quite profound. Thank you, Golic. Golic looks to Ripley. You married? You should get married. Pretty girl. I know lots of them. Back home. They always liked me. You're gonna die too. Are you? Asks Clemens. What? Married. Why? Just curious. No. How about leveling with me? When I asked how you got assigned here, you ducked the question. Later, you ducked me again. A long, sad story, a bit melodramatic. Entertain me. I was in my first residency, addicted to morphine. 30 hours on ER, and I went and got drunk. Got called back when a boiler blew on a fuel station. 30 patients. 11 died when I prescribed the wrong dosage of painkiller. 7-year sentence with my license dropped to a 3's. I kicked the habit here, and here I am. I'm sorry. About the patients? Yes, so am I. The sentence I deserved. Trust me with a needle now? Ripley then begins to scream. Come on, Ripley, it was a joke. Her scream continues as from behind Clemens the alien emerges, advancing on the doctor and moving in for the kill before Ripley could react. While in the film version Clemens is shown being impaled in the skull by the creature's second set of jaws, in the comic his entire head is lopped clean off, with one strike of the alien's razor-sharp tail. It moves in on Ripley, bearing its sharp, drooling fangs, but it does not kill her, and turns away to make an escape through the air vent. Just as it retreats, Golic calls out to the creature. Hey, over here. Let me loose. I can help you. I want to be your friend. But it ignores him and moves into the vent. This differs from both versions of the film. In the assembly cut, Golic views the alien with awe and utters one single word as it leaves. Magnificent. The theatrical version contains no moment like this, although he is shown reacting in fear during the attack on Clemens. But after this scene in the theatrical version, Golic is never seen or heard of again. One of the more drastic story changes made in bringing the theatrical cut together, but Golic is seen much more in this comic and in the assembly cut. What follows is another rumor control briefing with Andrews, this time in the mess hall. Much like the previous briefing scene, it closely resembles what's shown in the theatrical version, except for an opening prayer by Dylan, which only appears in the assembly cut. "Give us strength, O Lord, to endure. We are poor sinners in the hands of an angry God. Let the circle be unbroken until the day. Amen." Mr. Andrews? Right. Rumor control. At 0400 hours, prisoner Murphy got blown into a ventilator fan. His own carelessness. At 0400, prisoner Golic emerged from a forging mission in the underground network. He is in a deranged state. Boggs and Rains are missing. There is every chance they met with foul play at Golic's hands. Volunteers for a search party would be appreciated. Our smoothly running facility has developed a few problems, but I'm sure we can pull it all together in the next few days before the rescue team arrives for Lieutenant Rip. His speech is interrupted by the appearance of Ripley. "It's here. It's Scott Clemens. Stop this raving at once. Mr. Aaron, get that foolish woman under control and back to the infirmary." From the airshaft, the alien appears from above, in a swift movement snatching up Superintendent Andrews with it, much to the horror of the prisoners, panicked at the sight, with only Morse able to speak after witnessing what has happened, uttering a single profanity. The prisoners gather together and try to come up with a plan, now that their superintendent has been killed and an incredible threat looms over them. Well, who's in charge? I mean, we need to get organized here, right? Aaron volunteers. I guess I'm next in line. 85's gonna be in charge. Jesus, give me a break. Don't you ever call me that. Not now, not ever. Aaron raises a fist, but is held back by Dylan. I don't want to hear that shit. You, Ripley, you're an officer. How about showing a little leadership? I haven't seen one exactly like this. The others were afraid of fire, and not much else. Can we seal off the area? No chance. We're 10 miles square, 600 air ducts to the surface. This line is actually spoken by Aaron in the film version. Morse points the finger at Ripley, angrily suggesting since she's the one who brought the beast, they should run her head through the wall. She replies, "Sounds good to me." Ripley's reply is absent from the theatrical version. Instead, it cuts right to Dylan telling Morse to shut up, and the continuation of their desperate planning to survive the alien. Going over Fury's schematics, Ripley begins the planning with Aaron's aid. "What's this?" she asks, holding up a map. "That connects the infirmary and the mess hall. Maybe we can flush it out. There's miles and miles of tunnel down there. It'll nest in this area. It's like a lion. It sticks close to the zebras. We don't have any zebras here." "Oh, right. But running around there in the dark, you gotta be kidding. Flashlights? 6,000 of them, but no batteries. Nothing works. What about torches? Do we have the capacity to make fire? Most humans have enjoyed that privilege since the Stone Age." They approach the possible trap for the xenomorph. This toxic waste container's never been used. They were gonna dump a lot of nuclear crap in there, but they never got around to it. Clean as a whistle inside. This is the only way. In or out. Right, walls 6 feet thick, solid steel. They really know how to build these babies. You get something in there and close it up, no way it can get out. Right, no way. "Let me get this straight," says Dylan. "You want to trick it in here, slam the door, and trap its ass?" "Mm-hmm," from Ripley. "And you're looking for help from us Y-Chromo boys. Got something better to do? Why should we put our asses on the line for you? Your asses are already on the line. The only question is what you're going to do about it." Ripley, Aaron, and prisoner David go on to gather the drums of chemicals that will fuel the fire they need to trap the creature. "This is where we keep it. I don't know what it's called." "Quinitracetylene, 85. "Don't call me that." "What's this 85 thing?" "We got hold of his personnel files once. His IQ. Saw a drum of this crap fill into a beachhead bunker once. Blast put a tug in dry dock for 17 weeks. Great stuff." During the planning stages to catch the alien, there are a few moments depicted here that were cut from the theatrical version and only appear in the assembly cut. It's revealed that prisoners were assigned to flashlight detail, checking the thousands they had lying around for the odd one that works, explaining why at some point characters do have access to flashlight, despite Aaron saying earlier they didn't work. There's also some more of paintbrush detail, where prisoners complain further about the terrible smell of the chemicals, having to spread it through the confined spaces of the shafts. There's also a moment between Ripley and Dylan, where she begins coughing, and Dylan asks if she's okay. She hesitantly says she is, but Dylan bluntly replies, "Whatever you say, but you don't look okay to me, sister." When a prisoner is killed by the alien dropping his torch, the explosion is set off before Aaron is able to give the signal, leading to a disaster that kills many of the unprepared prisoners. It's here where the course of events change very noticeably. In Alien 3's theatrical cut, the explosion is set off, many are killed, and the alien gets away. Essentially, the entire plan was a failure, and they're back at square one. But in the assembly cut, and as depicted here in the comic, the alien emerges from the flames during the chaos, sending everyone into a panic as the beast was loose and fire everywhere. It's Junior who is able to get the attention of the creature, taunting it as he runs ahead of it and lures it into the toxic waste container. Dylan is able to close the doors as the alien attacks Junior inside, killing him, and then moving to the door, ready to escape, getting sealed in instead and letting out a hiss before it's trapped for good. In this version, the plan works. Despite the deaths and Junior's sacrifice, it was all for something. They successfully captured the beast. There's a nice moment in the comic that doesn't appear in either film version, where as the sprinklers go off and the fire begins to extinguish, Ripley puts a hand on Dylan's shoulder. Golic, having been confined to the infirmary still, had missed the entire episode, but presses Morse for further information and begs to be freed. "Hey Morse, let me out of this thing." "No way." "Come on, man, it hurts. What if it gets in here? I couldn't even run. I'd be dead meat." "It's not going to get in here. We got it trapped." "Then what's the big deal? Come on, man, let me loose." Morse begins to untie Golic. "Screw it. Why not? But behave yourself. No fooling around or I'll get nothing but shit." "So where they got it?" "The waste tank. We got that sucker nailed down. I mean tight." "Yeah? I gotta see it again," Golic says, knocking Morse out with a fire extinguisher. "He's my friend." Meanwhile, Ripley has returned to the EEV along with Aaron, checking to see what's wrong with her using the still-functioning imaging equipment. "What am I supposed to be looking for?" "I don't know how to run this stuff, Ripley." "Sorry, EEV's the only place that had a CAT scan. Look for anything strange in the biofunctions." "How do we get an enhancement? I gotta get a better angle." "Try B." Holy shit. Aaron gets a better look at the imaging and sees a clearer view of the alien embryo inside Ripley. "Move the screen. I've got to take a look." "Hey, I don't think you want to." "I do. I know. It's a queen. It's in me." This revelation, of course, takes place in both versions of the movie, but the comic presents it earlier in its sequence of events than what's shown in the assembly cut. Perhaps the scenes were shuffled around a little bit so that this moment will be the cliffhanger ending to the second part of the three-part comic release. As the third and final part opens, Ripley and Aaron are trying to get in touch with YUTANI to inform them of the alien's capture. "Okay, we got the first part. Now what do I say?" "Tell them we trapped it. The, xenomorph." "Right. How do you spell it?" "Here." She takes over the keyboard, writing her message. "Have trapped xenomorph. Request permission to terminate." "We can't kill it. We don't have any weapons, right?" A reply from the company, "Message received," appears on the screen. Seems that's all they ever tell us. Treat us like shit. There is a further reply from the company. "Rescue unit to arrive at 1200 hours. Permission denied to exterminate xenomorph. Repeat. Permission denied. Avoid contact until rescue team arrives." The situation is clear to Ripley. Shit is right. They want to take it back to Earth. Golic, now freed, has approached the toxic waste container, guarded by one prisoner, and requests to see the creature. Okay, off and on. I gotta get in there. What the hell you talking about, Golic? I just need to see the beast. We got a lot to talk over. Dickhead. Big Mother'll eat you alive. Plus you let that out kiss your ass goodbye. Golic is seen with a blade hidden behind his back, implying what's to happen next, but the comic does not depict this scene any further. In the assembly cut version of the film, though, we see Golic killing the guard and opening the doors to the container, swiftly being killed by the alien, now set free. The comic jumps ahead to the conversation between Ripley and Dylan, where she tries to convince him to kill it, knowing what the company's intentions are. They don't want to kill it. We've got to figure out some way to finish it off before they get here. Why? They're going to take it back. That's right. They're going to take it back. What's wrong with that? They don't understand. They can't control it. It'll kill them all. Like I said, what's wrong with that? It's here where Morse, having come to, informs them of the unfortunate development, stating, "We got a very large problem." In the assembly cut, he describes it as a teeny-weeny problem. They go back to see the container open, the alien let loose, and the bodies of Golic and the guard dead. This brings the story back on track to what's seen in the theatrical version. The 1992 cut is edited in such a way that these bodies aren't strictly identified, but meant to serve as more dead recovered in the aftermath of the explosion. Aaron and Morse argue further about what's to be done next, and Ripley, feeling nauseous, disappears. In both film versions, this would have been the moment where she goes to the EEV to get the CAT scan. Dylan gathers with the prisoners in the cell block, motivating them to survive, in a scene that was also cut from the theatrical version, but appears pretty closely to how it's depicted here in the assembly cut. "Give us strength, O Lord, to endure, until the day. Amen. Right now, there ain't any real safe place. I say we stay in the cell block. There's no overhead vent shafts. It comes, it's gotta come through the door. We'll post a guard. In any case, lay low. Most of you got blades stashed. Get 'em." Morse scoffs at this idea. "Right. We're gonna stab that mother to death. Maybe you can hurt it while you're checking out. It's something. Got any better ideas? I'm telling you, until that rescue team gets here, we're in the shit. Get prepared. I ain't staying here. You can bet on it. Suit yourself." In the assembly cut, it's actually the prisoner William who voices his objections, and eventually the group decides to make a run for the furnace. Aaron finds Ripley at the console, again ready to communicate further with the company. "There you are. Okay, what do you want to send?" "I want to tell them this whole place has gone toxic." "Are you kidding? Then they won't come here. The rescue team will turn back. If it gets off this planet, it'll kill everything. We can't let the company in. They'll try to take it back with them. Screw you. I got a wife and a kid. I go back on the next rotation. I want to get rescued. Look, it's got to be done. Give it to me. No way you get the transmit code." "Got any other ideas?" "I'm going to find it. I've got a pretty good idea where it is. Just up there in the attic." "We haven't got an attic. It's a metaphor. Want to come?" In the theatrical version and assembly cut versions, this exchange is about the same, except Ripley uses the metaphor of it being down there in the basement instead of up there in the attic. And here in the comic, she climbs through some vents in order to find the xenomorph. She steadies her flashlight, armed only with a metal pipe, sensing that she has the alien in her sights. "Come on. I know you're here. This is simple. Just do what you do." From above, the alien's tail takes a swipe at Ripley, knocking away the flashlight and the pipe. "You bastard." She looks up at the beast as it hisses and descends. It's on this note where both versions of the film end, but the comic takes this sequence a little further. Ripley picks the pipe back up and begins to attack the alien while screaming, "Come on, kill me," and it again knocks her weapon away. Now unarmed, Ripley takes no action as the alien stares her down and advances upon her. It reaches out with its clawed hands and grabs Ripley's entire head. She says again, quietly now, "Kill me." It does not. It turns away to leave as Ripley, bent over and defeated, curses the beast, pounding the ground in frustration. It turns back to take one last look and disappears into the dark. "I saw it an hour ago. I should have been lunch, but it wouldn't touch me. It ran away. It won't kill its future." "How do you know this thing's inside you?" "CAT scan. It's a queen. An egg layer. It can make thousands like this one. When I was in hyperspace, I got raped. I get to be mother of the apocalypse. You've got to kill me." "What are you talking about?" "I'm dead anyway. The moment it's born. It can wipe out the whole universe. It's got to die, so someone's got to kill me. You told me you were a killer. Do it. Just do it." Dylan is unable to bring himself to kill Ripley, instead believing her apparent immunity may be of some use. As long as it's alive, you're not saving any universe. If it won't kill you, then maybe that helps us fight it. Okay, we knock its ass off. Then you kill me. They gather together to rally the surviving prisoners to destroy the alien once and for all, and Aaron objects to this. "Hold it, there's a rescue team on the way. Why don't we just sit it out?" "Rescue team for who? All they want's the beast. You know that." Morse also chimes in with objections. "That don't mean we should go out and fight. Jesus Christ, give me a break." "You keep telling me how dumb I am, but I'm smart enough to wait for some firepower to show up before we fight that thing." "Okay, you just sit here on your ass. Fine. How about if I just sit here on my ass?" "No problem. You gotta deal with God to live forever. The rest of you pussies can sit it out too. Me and her, we'll do all the fighting. Hey, I wanted to die, but why can't we wait and have company guns on our side?" "Because they won't kill it. They may kill you for having seen it. First time, it was crew expendable. Second time, they sent in expendable Marines. What makes you think they care a bunch of Y chromos? They don't give a damn about one friend of yours. Not one. Got some kind of plan? This is a leadworks, isn't it? Nobody ever gave me nothing. So I say screw it. Let's fight." The plan to lure the alien into the mold and drown it in hot lead begins. "Sure the piston's working?" "We fired it up 5-6 years ago. Nothing's for sure, including you. Remember, we trap it here first. We pull that lever, end of his ass, end of story. If someone screws up, then we're screwed. You got one chance, one shot, that's all. You'll never have time to reset it. Remember, when you pull that lever, for a few seconds you're trapped in here with that thing. I'll do it. You guys don't drop the ball, I won't. Sister, you better be right about that thing not wanting you. 'Cause if it wants out, it goes through you. Where'll you be? Around. The others? Praying." The prisoners prepare, heading through the corridors, ready to lunch this thing. Prisoner Kevin hears a noise and discovers the alien present among them, ripping at one of his fellow prisoners. He lets out a scream, running away from the alien, which has now turned its attention to him. He's able to get through door C9 and leave the monster on the other side. Prisoner Jude also encounters the alien and taunts it, shouting out, "Hey buttface, take your best shot." In both film versions, of course, he uses the harsher fuckface insult toward the alien. He makes a run for his door, trapping the alien behind him, believing to be, at least momentarily, safe. To his shock, it crashes through the glass pane, leaving him running further. The prisoners begin to lose track of their place in the labyrinth leadworks, now unclear of where to stay, where to move, and Gregor winds up in the alcove with Ripley and Dylan. Where's he going? Why don't they stick to the plan? You're immune. They're not. They're improvising. This brief moment is cut out of the theatrical version, but the improvising is restored in the assembly cut. Kevin, alone, has closed door 3 in the F channel, at least he hopes. He's lost sight of where the alien has gone, calling out that he thinks it went up the air vent, though it appears behind him. Dylan hears screaming, calling out to the prisoners without a response. "What's going on back there?" Ripley asks. "All they have to do is run down the damn corridors. Stay here." He makes his way to investigate. Nothing. Not a sound. Where is everyone? Where in the hell is it? Kevin, still searching, calls out to Dylan, but the alien, having made its way above him, snaps down, taking a giant bite at him and leaving him bloodied and on the ground. Dylan sees him and tries to save him, staving off the alien with his axe and pulling him away, shouting, "No death," as Ripley approaches. It's clear to them both that at this point Kevin has died, and as the alien stalks them, they leave his body in the alcove to lure the alien in. As it makes its way to its prey, Ripley activates the piston, starting up the furnace as the alien vanishes, leaving Ripley in a panic as time starts to tick down. Where the hell? It's gone. Shit. It must be behind the piston. Seal the doors. We gotta get it back. Ripley and Dylan make a run to find the remaining prisoners, calling their names, and Ripley discovers more mangled corpses of the alien's victims. The alien, now in pursuit of Jude, makes its way through the corridors as the prisoner makes a desperate run for it. Dylan shouts at him to run as fast as he can, and Jude, unlike in the film versions, makes it safely through. Made it. God, I made it. Dylan smiles with relief. Then, as the door closes, the alien grabs at Jude's leg, pulling him inside, as Dylan on the other end sees the blood seep through and onto the floor. Morse and Gregor, confused, running through the corridors, bump into each other, each to their relative shock that leads them to start laughing. The alien cuts this moment of levity short, lunging at Gregor and tearing his arm clean off with a swift rip. Morse, on the ground, stares at the alien in horror and pleads for his life, just as Ripley appears, torch in hand, coming at the alien face to face once again. She throws the torch at it, taunting it more. "Come on. I got what you want. Follow me. I want to show you something." "Ripley." Dylan approaches from behind her. "Dylan, get back. It'll kill you. It wants me alive." Right. Dylan grabs at Ripley, then himself begins to taunt the creature. "Now I got what you want. Try to get her back." The alien sees this threat and hisses wildly at the human holding its future queen hostage. Dylan pulls Ripley back with him into the main corridor as the alien scuttles in. At the entrance to the mold, Dylan calls out to the alien. "In here." Dylan slams the door in front of Ripley, imprisoning both of them in the main corridor with the alien. Behind it appears Morse. "Get out! Get out now!" Ripley shouts over to Morse. "Close the door." Morse slams his door shut, sealing them in. He makes his way up the ladder to the crane as Ripley and Dylan are trapped inside the mold with the alien. The events here, in the comic, play out a little differently than they do in either version of the movie. The company arrives at the leadworks earlier than they do in either the theatrical or assembly cut. Bishop, too, escorted by the WEYLAND commandos, sees that Morse is about to dump the lead and pleads for him not to do so. Morse pulls the lever anyway, dumping the lead onto the alien as it lets out a screech, and both Ripley and Dylan are able to safely climb out of the mold. Ripley sees that the company has arrived and tells Dylan to make good on his offer to kill her. She brings his hands to her throat. "Keep your promise." "You mean it?" "Yes. I've got it inside me. Quit screwing around." Dylan hesitates. He begins to tear up. I can't do it." "Do it," Ripley shouts. Then the alien, very much still alive, emerges from the hot lead. Burning and smoking, the beast snatches Dylan, pulling him into the mold. Ripley lets out a scream of horror at the sight of the still-enduring monster rising up from the boiling lead and advancing upon her. She climbs up some nearby chains, making her way to the duct as Morse shouts to hit the sprinklers. She pulls the lever, sending out a gush of freezing cold water, pouring over the boiling hot alien, which leads its head and entire body to explode, and most definitively, killed by Ripley. Since this comic doesn't include the earlier foreshadowing of the bucket that splits when hit by the sprinklers after the fire, some extra dialogue is added to explain the alien's death by dousing. "What happened?" asks Morse. "Hot lead and ice water. Mold couldn't take the sudden temperature shift. Neither could the thing." "You okay? You look awful." Ripley has no time to reply as Bishop 2, Aaron, and the Weyland commandos steadily approach her. "Don't come any closer. Stay where you are." "Wait, they're here to help," says Aaron. Bishop 2 looks to Ripley. "We are, you know. I just want to help you. We're all on the same side." "Bishop?" "No. No more bullshit. I just felt the damn thing move. You know who I am." "Yeah, a droid. Same model as Bishop, sent by the fucking company." "No, I designed it. I'm the prototype. Very human. I was sent here to show you a friendly face, to demonstrate how important you are to us. To me. Please come down." "No, you just want to take it back." "No, we want to take you home. We don't care what happens to it. We realize now. You're right. But time is important. Let us deal with the malignancy. It's very quick, painless. A couple of incisions. You'll be out for 2 hours. What guarantee do I have that once you've taken this thing out, you'll destroy it? You're just going to have to trust me." Ripley, untrusting and refusing, separates from Bishop 2 and moves to the crane with Morse over the furnace. The commandos ready their guns, and Aaron, convinced that Bishop 2 is an android, knocks him over the head with a pipe, and is shot to death by the armed commandos. In the assembly cut, Bishop 2, bloodied by his injury, calls out to Ripley, shouting, "I'm not a droid," in an attempt to convince her and trust him. In the comic, however, he shouts it at Aaron when he's attacked. This line does not appear in any form in the theatrical version. Here, Bishop 2 makes one last attempt to sway Ripley as he realizes what she's about to do. "You owe it to us. You owe it to yourself." "No way. It's too late." "It's not." Ripley begins to sweat profusely, and the pain in her chest becomes unbearable as she groans in pain. The different film versions of Alien 3 handle Ripley's death and her ultimate sacrifice in different ways. In the assembly cut, Ripley jumps into the furnace. The flames consume her, and the alien queen never has a chance to be born. In the theatrical cut, the queen bursts out of Ripley's chest midway through her fall. She grabs the creature and firmly holds onto it as she falls into the fire. In this comic, the alien bursts from her chest while she's still on the crane. It knocks her backward and causes her to fall into the furnace. As the alien rips out of her chest, she lets out one final word, "Goodbye." And then she grabs the newly born alien queen, snaps its neck, and then descends into her fiery fate. As Morse is taken away, he has some final words of his own. "Those who are dead are not dead. They have moved up. They have moved higher." A final report from WEYLAND-YUTANI closes the events of this comic adaptation. WEYLAND-YUTANI Work Correctional Facility Fury 161 is closed now. The sole survivor of the accident relocated. He has been instructed to silence and understands the penalties for silence broken. Cleanup crew reported hearing noises, but no source was found. Most likely a radio left on somewhere, receiving white noise, phantom echoes. Transmissions of dead voices bounced off distant stars, lost communiques forgotten long ago. This is Ripley, last surviving member of the Nostromo, signing off. Alien 3 and its circumstances surrounding the production has always felt like a mystery, an incomplete film in many ways. Whether you enjoy the movie or not, or think it's a worthy sequel to Aliens or not, it is fascinating to consider how much was cut from the film. The comic book adaptation from Dark Horse felt like it offered some missing pieces of a much bigger puzzle, especially in 1992. It's not quite like today, where almost certainly there'd be leaks all over the internet in great detail outlining all of the cuts and juicy behind-the-scenes rumors immediately after the film's release. To be sure, cut footage made its rounds through the internet well before the assembly cut, and further deleted footage, not from either the theatrical or assembly cut or this comic, is out there somewhere for those curious enough to track it down. The Alien 3 comic book adaptation gives us a unique mix of both versions of the film, but much more pieces of the puzzle remain. The assembly cut was carefully and lovingly put together and offered a distinctly different approach to the story, but do you think there's enough still out there to warrant yet another cut of the film? Would you like to see a third cut of the film, someday down the road, incorporating even more lost footage? Incorporating as much of what was deleted as possible, regardless of the runtime? I know I would. Comment below and share your thoughts. As always, I'd like to thank you very much for watching today. I really appreciate it, and if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a like, and you can also subscribe for all the latest videos from the channel. A very, very special thanks goes out to WEYLAND YUTANI executives, EmYarUk, Mark Fox, and Lady Anne, and our queen, Albert Newell, part of the Patreon Hive. If you'd like to join the Hive and support the channel, check out my Patreon page for exclusive posts and contests. In the meantime, you can catch up with Alien Theory over social media. Follow @alien_theory on Twitter and @alien3yt on Facebook and Instagram for more. And until next time, this is Alien Theory, signing off.